In today's video, we have all kinds of NHL news to discuss, including some trade talk around Columbus, Toronto, Montreal, and Pittsburgh. Could Dawson Mercer of the New Jersey Devils be a subject of an offer sheet? Is Mitch Marner going to end up re-signing in Toronto? It sounds like negotiations may be underway. Plus, Robin Lehner did not show up to training camp for the Vegas Golden Knights. They're exploring some options there. Plus, we have big news regarding potential NHL expansion. All that, plus Jaromir Jagr is actually set to retire, a big signing in Detroit, and some more PTOs and injury updates as camps continue. All that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots of news to cover here today. A little bit of trade talk here at the end, but lots of news here in between. It's been a very newsworthy couple of days now that NHL training camps have opened. We learned today that longtime NHL forward and current Stanley Cup champion from the Florida Panthers, Kyle Okposo, is announcing his retirement. So, of course, Okposo, we kind of suspected this was going to happen because he had not signed anywhere. He was a free agent, finished the year in Florida, went out on top as a Cup champion, longtime New York Islander, former Buffalo Sabre, wore the C in Buffalo a little bit, went on to Florida last year at the trade deadline, became a Stanley Cup champion. Long career, been through a lot injury-wise over the course of his career, so not a huge shocker. He's gone out on top, the ultimate, call his own shot, retire Stanley Cup champion. So congrats to Kyle Okposo on a long career, very successful career, and certainly, obviously, especially after everything he went through, injury-wise especially, he had some long, hard bouts of health issues, and he's kind of conquered that and become a Stanley Cup champion. So best to him and whatever comes next for him. Big signing in Detroit today. Mo Seider, the Red Wings have finally come to terms. So the Red Wings and Steve Yzerman finally have all of their internal business looked after. Of course, in the last couple of days, we've seen them sign Berggren. We've seen them sign Lucas Raymond. And now Seider is done. 7 years, $8.55 million per year. The word was that Seider wanted around, it was going to be somewhere around $9 million or so. But the Red Wings and Yzerman did not want to go above captain Dylan Larkin's salary, which is $8.7 million. He made that known in negotiations with Seider and Raymond that $8.7 was going to be the absolute max. They weren't going above Larkin's number for either of these guys. And for Seider to bring his number down, they had to reduce the term. So at the end of the day, they sacrificed a little bit of term for a little less salary to make it work. So Mo Seider will be a UFA at age 30. Former first rounder, 9th overall in 2019, Calder Trophy winner. Had a really solid Calder season there, 50 points. Put up 9 goals and I think 33 assists, I believe, last year. So certainly, a real good top pair right shot defenseman. So, the number will be interesting to see how it works out. I know there's a lot of young defensemen up and coming in the Atlantic Division that are, former first rounders that have been signed long-term deals here between Seider and Power and Sanderson. Be curious to see how these guys all compare as they go through their careers. Seider, of course, being a right shot D, does have a little bit of leverage in that sense because it's, these guys are a little bit harder to find. But at the end of the day, the contract is done. He'll be in camp and be ready to go for the season, which was, obviously very important. Seider and Lucas Raymond, very big pieces of that team. And if they were going to miss time, it would have had a major, major impact. Jaromir Jagr, longtime player who's been obviously one of the greatest of all time. I've been playing in Czech Republic for the team that he owns in Kladno for a long time since he's left the NHL, has made it known that he's actually going to retire after the current season. He's still playing, but this is going to be his final year. So Jaromir Jagr, after all this time, will actually be able to go into the Hockey Hall of Fame. They will not put you in the Hall of Fame if you're still actively playing, because it's not the NHL Hall of Fame, it's the Hockey Hall of Fame. If you're playing anywhere and you're active, you're not considered retired and you're not going into the Hall. So at least we should hopefully be able to finally see Jagr be celebrated and be made a member of the Hall of Fame here very soon. The Anaheim Ducks today, the third team in training camp in the last 2 days, to name a new captain, and it's veteran defenseman Radko Gudas. Of course, Gudas, again, like a guy like Foligno, a hard-nosed character player with a lot of experience, an intense guy. He's going to work hard, going to lead by example. Obviously, some of these teams that are rebuilding really value these types of players. I think they're valued regardless on any team, really, but especially when you have an up-and-coming team with a lot of young talent and you really want to have some veterans like these around to really kind of show them the way, lead by example, and all those things that you really value. I think long term, to be honest, I think a captain for this team will likely be Mason McTavish, but it takes the pressure off the young guys having to have that role that they're probably not quite ready for. Same goes for Bedard in Chicago, and they can kind of learn from somebody and be mentored into that role, and they can just focus on just becoming better hockey players and elevating their game before they have to take on those extra responsibilities. So all in all, I think the Ducks have made a pretty good choice here with Radko Gudas. As camps get underway, we've learned a little bit more too about some more PTOs that get announced today and some more injury updates. On PTOs today that were confirmed, a couple of goalies here, the Ottawa Senators have brought in Dustin Tokarski. Of course, Tokarski, a veteran goaltender, hasn't been in the NHL in some time, but certainly somebody who's been basically an up and down NHL, AHL type of guy. Was number 2, number 3 string oftentimes in his career. Some of his best hockey actually came in the World Juniors in Ottawa, which would have been way back. I think that would have been like 2009 when they hosted that. He had some really good moments there in that tournament, but Tokarski, I think there might be just some insurance. Basically, the youngster Muriel for Ottawa is injured, not expected to be out super long. It's a groin injury of some kind, so he might be like a week or two. Hard to say how much of camp he's going to miss, and I think it's just somebody to bring in to kind of challenge some of the other goalies. Hard to say if it leads to anything. I don't know that there's really room long term for a spot for him, so we'll see how it turns out. Boston Bruins also have another goaltender in camp on a tryout. And again, I think this is insurance with Swayman not being there. Not somebody who's really going to, be able to reproduce what Swayman does for them. I don't think anybody can. But they have Casimir Kaskisio in camp on a PTO as well. He's bounced around a few different organizations. Was with the Leafs for a few years. He was also, I think it was New Jersey. He was actually somebody else. He had a YouTube channel. I'm not sure if he still does vlogs or not, but he was building a good following on here on YouTube not too a few years back. Injury updates around the NHL as well. The Devils, they're one of their top free agent signings. Brett Pesce is listed as week to week. Apparently he had a fibula injury that he was dealing with during the summer, and he's getting close to being ready, but not quite there. So he's going to miss part of camp. Rasmus Dahlin, who we talked about yesterday, left the very first skate with the Sabres due to some sort of injury. We don't know the full extent of it, but Lindy Ruff indicated today that it's nothing too serious, and he will probably only miss a few days. So that's good. Utah has a couple of players that they're listing as week to week as well, with defenseman and new acquisition John Marino and veteran centerman Nick Bukestad. Utah's another team as well that I believe was expected to name a captain. Of course, we're also kind of waiting for confirmation what their team name is. And there's some people that think Clayton Keller might have spilled the beans because he did an interview the other day, and I think he said that he believed it was going to be Yetis. So I think the Utah Yetis is going to be the name, but we don't know that 100%, and I'm not sure exactly when they're going to announce it or when they're going to confirm their captain. It's expected they're going to name one, but they may choose not to. We'll have to wait and see. Montreal Canadian defenseman Caden Gooley is going to be out for, we don't know, they didn't give a timeline, but definitely a little bit. He apparently had to have his appendix removed just yesterday. So obviously, typically with an appendectomy, I've seen people be out for a couple of weeks. I've seen, it's not going to be too long before they can start doing activity again for a healthy, well-conditioned athlete like that. It's hard to say. I can see him maybe missing a week. It's difficult to say, but he is going to miss part of camp after having that emergency surgery done. Some other news around the NHL. Robin Lehner did not report to training camp for the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, you might be saying, well, he hasn't played in quite a while. He's been in LTIR. What's the difference? Well, the difference is that even if you're on long-term injury reserve and you haven't played and you're not expected to necessarily play, you still have to show up at the beginning of training camp every year to conduct your physical and your medical. And they kind of have to reprove for insurance purposes and for league purposes that you still are not healthy and cannot play. For example, like TJ Oshie showed up, Nicholas Backstrom and Washington. Like, you still have to go. It doesn't matter, right? So Lehner, I don't know what's going on with Lehner. The Golden Knights put out a statement. There were some updates from reporters saying that they thought Vegas was exploring some options, and Vegas has confirmed that. So all they've said was that they've confirmed that Robin Lehner is not expected to play, and that he is going to remain for right now on long-term injury reserve, but that they were exploring their options. So their options could include terminating the contract. So there's some talk that Vegas is trying to determine if they can put the contract on unconditional waivers for the purpose of contract termination. Of course, you would expect Lehner to probably fight that. It's a lot of money. It's over $4 million. I think it's $4.5 million in salary. Obviously affects them. It would get them out of LTIR. They could maybe have a different cap situation. Like, there's obviously implications here for both sides. But I mean, I know Lehner has had his struggles with different things in the past. Well, I don't know where things are at, but I do believe that at least his agent or somebody on his side of it confirmed that. I'm not sure if he was still currently or he had before gone through the player assistance program. I think it's possible that he might be dealing with that now based on the wording of it. So we'll see. Obviously, if he's in the program, I don't know that Vegas is going to be able to do anything. But the fact is, he didn't show up for that to prove he's not healthy, and obviously he feels he shouldn't have to or doesn't need to, which is conflicting with the rules. And we'll see if Vegas pushes the envelope here and tries to terminate him. They will obviously have a fight on their hands, I'm sure, if they do. But time will tell how that plays out. But another story we'll be following here in the coming days as we learn more about that. Could the NHL formally open the expansion process in the very near future, as early as maybe October 1st, perhaps? If not long after. There's reports from both Kevin Weeks and Andy Strickland, who covers the St. Louis Blues, saying that they believe the NHL is set to formally open this NHL expansion process here in the very near future. It's believed, according to them, that Houston and Atlanta appear to be the leading contenders. And on Kevin Weeks' post, he said that he can see the NHL not only going to 34, but to 36 teams as well. Now, I do believe that this could be a very gradual process. I don't necessarily think it's going to be one announcement of like 4 teams and be done. I wouldn't be surprised if they do 2 teams now and 2 teams in a few years. Obviously, even if they announce that the process is going to be opening here soon, they're going to take a good amount of time, I'm sure, to receive all the applications, go through everything. It could be a while, I would think, before they confirm that they A, are going to expand, and B, what those markets are going to be. We do know that there are groups in both Houston and Atlanta. That there's multiple groups in Atlanta, and I believe Tillman Fertitta, I do believe, is rumored to be the potential owner in Houston. We've heard different things about him over the years, as Houston has been a rumored city to get a franchise for some time now. We've heard that he's very much in favor of it, that he wouldn't mind being a part of it, but doesn't necessarily want to be the majority owner. But then I've heard times where they said he could be. So I don't know exactly how the ownership structure would work in Houston, but there's definitely interest there for sure. And like I said, there's multiple groups that want to bring a team back to Atlanta. There's lots of ongoing work about the getting a new arena and all that in place right now as well. So when this could happen, it's difficult to say, but Kevin Weeks has been talking about this for an extended period of time. He might be on to something, and said he's not going to be surprised at all if if we do see them hit 36 teams. Didn't really give a timeline on what he thought that was realistic for. But at the end of the day, like I said, Houston and Atlanta are the 2 of the emerging markets. I know we've heard about Quebec City over the years, and I'd love to see them get a team, but I'm not sure that the NHL is overly interested in that. But the price of the franchises going up as much as they have has kind of hurt Quebec, where, obviously they're in Canadian dollars. I mean, it's in the currency difference between Canada and the U.S. is different enough that it would be very, very pricey in Canadian dollars to buy a franchise. So I don't know how that would work out for Quebec, but as much as I'd love to see it happen. At the end of the day, though, the good news here is that we might see a formal process very soon and some actual work being done here. So let me know your thoughts on expansion maybe coming to the NHL here in the very near future. Elliot Friedman put out a written blog as well today, talking about Mitch Marner, he covered a few things, but it sounds like there's mutual interest in Mitch Marner's re-upping in Toronto and actually staying. After everything we've heard at the end of the season, into the summer, about everything being on the table, there were people, including well-connected reporters, including Chris Johnson. I've heard from Friedman, like all these guys to some degree, but I know Chris Johnson, who is very well connected with the Leafs, even said that he really thought the odds were very high that Marner was going to be moved. And not only has he not been moved, but now we've heard that there's probably no chance of a contract extension. Odds are Mitch will play it out and maybe leave as a UFA, and that's still possible. We don't know how things are going to play out, but the fact that we're hearing that, for one, Marner come out at the beginning of training camp, said to reporters, I'm not talking about the contract, I'm here to talk about the season. But when he had talked to Friedman before, he had mentioned about he wouldn't necessarily being opposed to having talks throughout the year. So there's that. Plus, his agent had put out a statement saying they were not going to be commenting about ongoing negotiations. So it sure sounds like, if you kind of put it all together, that there is negotiations on a contract extension for Marner ongoing right now, and they do not want to talk about it publicly. What those numbers could look like, and to be honest, like I said, I'm not sure. Marner would probably want to do a long-term deal, and I guarantee he's going to want close to Matthews' money. That's what he's always used as his comparable. He's going to want more than Nylander and upwards of close to what Matthews is getting. So we'll see how it works out. But all the talk about Marner, and now it seems like the team hasn't really not made any significant changes. They made a change behind the bench, and they made some change in the supporting cast, but the core guys have gone nowheres. And I'm surprised that we would see this without seeing more of the season first, to kind of get a better feel to see if anything has changed. Are they more confident they can win with this group? Because yes, this team and this group of core players with the Leafs are capable. They're very talented guys, but they haven't been able to win in the playoffs, and that's where it matters most. So anyways, after everything we've heard, it sure sounds like he could stay, and negotiations might be going on. So we'll see where it goes. Some reports out of Montreal indicate that they feel like, from BPM Media, BPM Sports, that they think, and I'm not sure that I agree with it, but they think that Dawson Mercer may be a offer sheet candidate here. Of course, negotiations still remain with Swayman, Mercer, Perfetti, and that Mercer might be a prime candidate. Obviously, New Jersey would like to get him locked up, but for whatever reason, they're still have a big gap, or a gap of some kind of preventing it from getting done. The one concern, though, because now the BPM Sports people were saying that they had sources saying that they had it on good authority that there was teams seriously thinking about offer sheeting him. The problem is, though, is that it's going to take a big enough number that if you look at all the different compensation levels, there would have to be one that's high enough that included at least one first-round pick that would really to get Mercer interested in signing to go somewhere else. And, that might be quite costly. I don't see the Montreal Canadiens doing it. Could Montreal maybe try to add another young player? Sure. Would they like Dawson Mercer? Probably. Most teams probably would. But I don't see them wanting to mess around with their picks, because you have to use your own picks. It can't be picks acquired by trade to make an offer sheet. So at the end of the day, these RFAs that remain unsigned, are they potential high candidates for offer sheets? I think it's absolutely possible. But looking around the league and all the business that's been done, there is a small group of teams that could really do this, and to do it effectively, to be successful. So as much as New Jersey probably should be cautious of that, I'm not sure that you're going to see it happen. I mean, I do get the sentiment here, and I have no doubt that these sources might even be legitimate, that teams are seriously thinking about it, but whether or not they follow through, I have my serious doubts. Chris Letang also was asked about the trade rumors in the summer about being asked to be traded, where he apparently requested a trade to Montreal. He laughed that off, denied it. Said nobody was talking to him, kind of made it almost seem like he was surprised a little bit. So we just kind of went on about how, fortunate and happy he was to be a Penguin all this time, and that nothing has changed for him. I wouldn't expect him to say anything different anyways, but Chris Letang, when he had the opportunity, definitely came out and completely denied all the rumors that we had heard about him wanting to go to Montreal through the offseason. I mean, we even heard there was rumors out there saying that they had conversations, but the level of interest in Montreal just was not anywhere near high enough to take that contract on, and that there was, as much as Letang has history with Ken Hughes, it obviously Montreal is in his home province. There's lots of connections there for Letang, so I get where some of the rumors might have come from, but it just seemed a little bit far-fetched. Well, based on what he's saying, they certainly probably were, but we'll see. He seems quite happy to be in Pittsburgh, and with Crosby extending and all that, and completely denied everything. And Columbus continues to work at it as well. Still lots of talk that the Jackets, definitely before we get too far into camp, want to add another forward or two. I know, like we talked yesterday, look to the Leafs as being a real possible destination here for them to talk to. Montreal is one as well. And there are other teams, but certainly based on what we're hearing from NHL reporters, the Leafs definitely want to do more moves, including signing Max Pacioretty. And it's a very real possibility we could see at least one forward out of Toronto moved, whether it be Robertson or Calle Yarncroke, or I know Connor Timmins is another name to watch as well. But I think with Timmins, they're content to put him on waivers if need be and bury that in the minors. They can get enough cap hit relief that way. So depending on what else they want to do, Steven Lawrence is also a guy to watch that could get a contract there too. So they may only need to trade one person. It kind of depends on what happens with Timmins as well. But certainly look to the Jackets are definitely working hard to try to find some more help, because they certainly need it between the players they moved, the whole unfortunate situation that happened with Johnny Gaudreau, and then of course they got some injuries to boot on top of that, and they got a young team, obviously got some veterans there, but they need some more help for sure. And we know, based on everything we heard out of Toronto, is they're going to be active here as Trey Living tries to put the final touches on what he wants his team to be for the upcoming year. So let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.